everybody, welcome back to my channel. So it's been a while since I've uploaded a video, and I'm not gonna make any excuses even though there have been reasons. I'm not gonna get into that. Like I've said a trillion times before, if you guys want to know what's going on when I'm not uploading on this channel, then you can follow my vlog channel, because usually I'll have updates on there, and if I don't have anything on there, then usually it's because I'm in hospital or something like that, in which case you're better off following my Instagram, because there's always updates on there. If something like that happens, I usually try and get an update out on my Instagram, so I'll put it up on the screen and I'll leave it in the description. There are multiple Instagram links down there, but it's my medical one that you're looking for. Anyway, today's video is something that has been super requested. Super requested? Does that make sense? I don't know. I was gonna wait until I had the results of one of my recent tests to do this video. Well, I say recent test, it's a test I had like November, December last year, and I still haven't got the results for it yet. The results are out there, I just haven't seen the doctor to get the results. So I didn't really want to, I wanted to wait to do this video because I wanted to know exactly the diagnosis. But I'm going to explain everything in this video. So as you can tell by the title, this is going to be about my catheters and why I use them, like all about my catheters. Because people have this thing that catheters are what old people use, which is completely false. There are many people that use catheters, that even use them from birth. There's so many different types. I'm not really going to get into the other types, I'm just going to talk about the ones that I use. I'm going to try and do my best to give you guys the correct terminology, but I also call them different things to what the medical name is, if that makes sense. Okay, so I'm just going to briefly talk about the types that I've had and I use, and then I'm just going to like touch on like the ones that I know about. I'm sure there's others out there, but I'm not going to do a bunch of research for things that I don't really, you know, need to know about. I have enough things to remember as it is. So I've written this down because I'm probably going to forget like how to say it. So there's a type called Foley catheter, or I call it a Foley catheter. I'm not sure if it has another name, but basically it is a type of catheter that stays in for short periods of time. They can be long term, but they have to be changed, if that makes sense, just like feeding tubes, etc. So I've had a bunch of Foleys in my lifetime, and I'm sure I will have more. Personally, it depends on the situation whether I would prefer that to intermittent catheters, which means when I need to go for the toilet for a wee, I will catheterize, let the urine drain, and take the catheter out. It does not stay in, whereas the Foley catheter does. So I'll try and pop up pictures. Obviously I'm not going to pop up a picture of me intermittently cathetering, that's just not going to happen. But I do have a picture of me with a Foley catheter in, and that is where you wear a drainage bag to drain it, or alternatively you can have like a little stopper on the end, so it's like a valve. So basically when you need to go, you just open the valve and it goes out, and then you close it again. Or you can drain, for example, while you're sleeping. It's easier to pop on a drainage bag to let it drain out while you sleep, otherwise it might get too full, your bladder I mean. So I really hope I'm making sense. I've kind of just dived into this, not really giving it a bit of an intro, but it's something I really want to talk about, because it shouldn't be weird to talk about this stuff, and it is. There's so much like stigma around it. It's like, oh, only old people can, I can't speak. It's like, oh, only old people can use catheters, and only old people have that stuff, and it's not true at all. I have many friends that have bladder issues and that catheterize, and it's not weird at all. Like, it's kind of funny, like we'll be sitting in a room and one of us will be like, oh, I forgot a catheter, and then, or like the other people in the room that like catheterize, well, I've got one, and it's just like this weird normality for us. Like, it shouldn't be weird, it should just be normal, you know. Some people can't, you know, it's like, for example, some people, you know, who can't breathe and need oxygen to help them breathe properly. They will have the little nasal cannulas to help them breathe, and that's just, you know, everyone sees that as like a weird thing, like what's wrong with that person? But why should we see it like that? Why can't it just be, oh, that's their normal, and get on with it? You know what I mean? Like, why does it have to be like, whoa, what's wrong with that person? And oh, why is that person in a wheelchair? Like, it shouldn't be that way, but it is. So I'm not going to go into a big rant because I could. So, types of catheters, where was I? So you've got intermittent catheterization, which are these bad boys here. And I'll try and link some information down below, like a video of what it would be like if you guys really want to see that, because there's lots of like little cartoony type videos. And I remember when I was learning how to self-catheterize, they showed me this like video, this cartoon thing of this woman doing it, and it was just cringe. It was just me and this nurse watching this video, and then it was pretty much, right, on you go, right, go and try to do it yourself. And I was like, what? You're gonna show me a 2-minute video and expect me to catheterize by myself? Like, I was really pushed in on the deep end. Like it was not, there's no, well, for me there was no training properly on how to do it. I just had to basically learn. So I'm gonna give you guys my best tips on how I learned how to do it by myself, and like tricks I came across, I don't know. There's intermittent cathetering, then there's the Foley catheters, which stay in for short periods of time. I think the longest it can stay in for is like 6 weeks or something, and it has to be changed, I think, but don't quote me on that because I'm not entirely sure. And then you've got a suprapubic catheter, I think it's called, and that's basically kind of like a feeding tube but for your bladder. So you guys have seen me talk about my feeding tube and my drainage tube. It looks similar to that, except it's basically a catheter that is surgically placed, so you can't take it out. I mean, obviously you can get it surgically removed, I suppose, but it's not something you can just whip out and put back in again. You know, it's there, and when you need a wee, you just kind of, I imagine, I don't know, I've never had one. I know people that have them, but it's not something that I discuss with them. So again, if I'm giving you guys false information, I apologise. I'm just going off what I thought or what I think. So I imagine that it's similar to the little button. Let me show you guys. Oh, sugar, something fell off the bed. So I imagine that it's similar to my feeding tube, except it will be near your bladder, I suppose. And I imagine you just kind of pop it open when you want to wee and let it drain out. That's how I imagine that's how it works. But if there's any of you guys that have that type of catheter in the comments, please comment down below, and hopefully you guys can go check the comments and there'll be something. Now then, the reason I need catheters, that was my next little thing that I wanted to talk about. So the reason I use catheters is because of my Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which you guys know, that's like my hypermobile thing that makes my joints dislocate, and it's caused my stomach to be paralysed, intestines to be paralysed, etc, etc. I've talked about this before. I'm not going to get onto it. There are other videos on my channel about Ehlers-Danlos syndrome if you guys want to know about it. But that is basically the reason I have bladder issues. It is common with people with EDS to have bladder issues. So when I first started getting issues, it was that my bladder would be really like and I just couldn't wee. So basically, yeah, I would just end up having this really full bladder, and I just couldn't wee, and I kept trying, and like maybe I'd get like a little dribble, but it just wouldn't go. But I was bursting, and I had to keep going to A&E or the ER or emergency or whatever you want to call it, and they had to place a Foley catheter to drain it. And because my bladder was so stretched from having so much urine in there, like, I always have around a litre or over a litre in there, which is a lot. Usually you get the sensation to wee between 300 to 400 mils. So you can imagine how full that was and how painful that I was crying. It was so painful. I was like, I don't even know, I can't even remember. I just remember screaming and crying and being like do something, like it's so full, it hurts, like it hurts so bad. Anyway, so they place a Foley, which is the one that stays in for like short periods of time, and they drain the bladder. I'll try and pop up pictures where relevant into like this little machine thing that fills it with urine, and then you have to keep the Foley in for about a week to 2 weeks depending on what your doctor says, because your bladder's been so stretched it needs time to kind of contract back to its original size. So that's why you keep the catheter in. And then you go for a, what is it called? Trial and void, I think it's called, or something like that. And it's basically like a continence clinic that you go to. They take the catheter out and then they wait for you to wee, basically, to see if you can wee by yourself. And if you can, brilliant, off you go. If you can't, they pop another one back in. And then you kind of just repeat that process until you can wee again. Now, obviously that's happened many times to me. I went to a continence clinic appointment and I saw a nurse. I had to basically hold my urine for this appointment. So I get to the appointment and they say, okay, we want you to go to the toilet and we're gonna measure your bladder after you've gone. So I went to the toilet and I weed what I could, and then they get the little bladder scanner out and they scan your bladder. It's kind of like a mini ultrasound, and they see how much urine is left. So they did that, they scanned my bladder after I'd gone to the toilet and they were like, you've got way too much urine left in. And mind you, I'd gone to the toilet and I'd weed about 200, 250, 300 mils of urine, and I felt like it was empty. And they measure the urine that you wee into like this chair and it goes down into like this little pot where they measure it so they can tell how much you've weed. And then they scan your bladder afterwards and they're like, no, you've got like another 400 mils still in there. And then I tried to go and wee again and I just couldn't, like, to me, it wouldn't let me wee. Anyway, that's how my issues first started, and then they were like, you need to catheterize even after you think you're empty because you're not emptying it properly. And that's why I was getting so many UTIs, because I wasn't emptying my bladder properly and there was urine that was still sat there. Now I am at the point where I can't wee at all without catheterizing. Like, I get dribbled occasionally, but that's pretty much it. Apart, if I don't catheterize, I don't wee. So that's currently where I'm at. I've had some urine studies done. I've had, I don't think what it's called. It's called a urodynamics study, and it's not a pleasant test at all. It's quite the opposite. It's very gross. That's another story for another day. So I haven't got the results of that yet, so I don't know the terminology of what exactly is wrong with my bladder, but my doctors have diagnosed it as like retention, chronic retention due to EDS. That's like my current diagnosis, but I don't know the actual term of what the results are of that test yet. So I'm currently waiting to find that out, but you know, when I do, I'll let you guys know. So now I'm just gonna give you guys my tips and show you what a catheter looks like, I suppose. They get delivered in a box like this by Coloplast, which is the company that I get them from, and you get 30 in a box, and they come in sheets like that. They come in sheets of 5, I think, and then obviously when you rip them off that's what they look like. So I'm just going to take you to the bathroom. So as you can see, I've got a box there. These are all, what's the word? Split, if that makes sense. So basically, instead of being in rows, they're just singles, so I can just pull them out. Then I have a different type of catheter. These look a little bit different to the ones up top, but they still do the same thing. Then I have a thing of chlorhexidine, which is just like a sterile solution basically that I use to wipe down near my genitals so it's all nice and clean. And then I have a box of just split drainage gauze or dressings that I use to put the chlorhexidine on and then wipe down below. So I'm going to take one of these, the catheter, and one of these back to the room just so I can show you guys like what my hip, so I can show you guys what I do basically. And I also have one of these in the bathroom normally, so I'll just bring that, and that is some debug hand hygiene solution that I use to clean my hands. So this is what I well, except obviously I just use one of these, so I don't need that, but this is like what the typical setup for what it looks like before you catheterize basically. Right then, so say I get the sensation to go to the toilet, off I go. I get my supplies. Sometimes I use gloves, sometimes I don't. If I've got any small cuts on my hands or fingers, etc., I'll pop on some gloves. I'm not going to do it for this, but you guys can imagine what that looks like. So we grab our hand hygiene solution and we pop some of that on. So we got nice clean hands. And I usually take I usually leave my medical ID on because that can go up my arm like that. That's fine, but I usually take off my watch so I've got more space. Plus my right hand is the hand that I use to insert the catheter, just because I'm right-handed. We're gonna open the gauze. We open it like that, Then we take the chlorhexidine solution, and then what I do is I squirt it inside the wrapper, but so it's not going to go everywhere. And it's a blue solution, so you can see where you're putting it. Now you can see that the wipe's sodden and blue. So then I'll just place that on the side. That is clean, obviously. So we get the solution again, put some of that on, clean your hands again, and then you get your catheter. Now my catheters have a little dot on the back, so I remove the dot and I then stick that. So imagine my hand is the wall, or I usually put it on the light switch, and I stick it on there like that so it holds on. It's not going to go anywhere. So the wall can hold it for me, so I don't have to worry about putting the catheter down and then picking it up again. So that's all prepared. If you are new, I highly suggest that you get yourself one of these. So I place this on the floor and I angle it up at me so I can see my downstairs area. Okay, so what I've decided to do is take you guys to the toilet to show you guys how I would do this. I wasn't going to take you to the toilet. I thought you guys would be able to get the idea, but I actually think this is going to be really helpful if you guys can actually see how it's done. So, if I can balance you over here. So, you can imagine you're sitting on the toilet. You've got your mirror. I usually angle it like that. So when you are, let me show you. You can see the reflection in the mirror. That is where my genitalia area is. So you can see it from the toilet, if that makes sense. So you got your feet on the mat, you're kind of squatting, and you'd be able to see what you're doing. I usually kind of perch my bum, if you guys can see, on the edge of the toilet seat, if that's how you're looking, so that you can easily access your area without touching everything. Now, if you're experienced, you're not going to need the mirror. Like I said, this is where I pop the catheter, so I can pull that down and access it easily. I usually wipe down this little area here before I start so I can rest everything so it's easily accessible. So we're sat on the toilet, we're perching on the end, you can see yourself in the mirror. I'm gonna reach, I'll have the hand spray here, so I'll spray my hands again when I'm ready. I can see the hole where the wee comes from. That's the hole you want to go in. It's really difficult to find that hole sometimes, and personally for me, if I get the wrong hole with the catheter, I have to get a new catheter. You can't keep using the same one. So I would recommend, if it's your first time, to get a mirror that you can see what you're doing in and practice finding the hole. You know, clean your hands and kind of just, I don't want to say explore yourself, but find where the hole is and make sure you know where that hole is, if that makes sense. And if you can wee a bit yourself, I would recommend weeing into the toilet so you can actually see the hole it's coming out of. That's what I used to do. That's how I found out where the hole was, is I would wee with the mirror so I could see the actual hole the wee was coming out of. So, we cleaned our hands. We're gonna take the gauze that's got the chlorhexidine on, and you're gonna wipe the whole area, you know, so it's nice and clean and sterile. And after you've done that, you just pop that in the toilet. You don't need, obviously not the plastic, just the chlorhexidine wipe. Then we're going to take our catheter, and I just jiggle it a bit because mine comes pre-lubricated. If yours doesn't come lubricated, you're going to obviously have to get a packet of lube and lube up your catheter. There are packets of lube you can get that are actually got numbing stuff in them, so it'll make it easier for you, so it'll numb it a bit. You can put the lube on before. Sorry, I'm making so much squeaky noise with these jeans. You don't normally sell the toilet with your jeans on. Anyway, so you get the catheter, and then you kind of look in the mirror, you're perching on the end. Now you've got to remember, as soon as you put this catheter in, the wee's gonna flow out. So you don't want to make, you want to be perching enough that you can get it in, but you've got to remember the minute you do, that's gonna go all over the floor. So once you've found the entry point, move back over to the toilet, because the minute you pop it in, the wee's gonna come out, okay? So you're finding your hole. If you can wee to find out where the hole is, brilliant, try and do that. If not, basically look at pictures online, like anatomy, because everyone's anatomy is different. Find your own hole. This is the weirdest thing I've ever done on YouTube. No, it's probably not. I've probably done weirder. So you find your hole, you insert, remember your perch because you want to be able to see, but you can also make sure you can see when you move back, so make sure the mirror is in a good spot. You found your hole, you got the hole, and then lean back and push up. You don't have to insert the whole thing. Believe me, that is a long way. I probably have to insert it about halfway, a quarter of the way before the weave will start coming. And then if the flow of the wee stops, you can move it around a bit to see if any more come out. And usually as you draw out, you will get, if you can imagine a bladder draining, and say the bladder's down here, right? So you're draining the bladder, and then as you remove the catheter, there's more wee here. So as you pull out, you should get a little bit more wee that comes out, but it won't be much. So then anyway, you've drained it, and then after you pull out, I usually shake it a bit, pop it back in its sleeve, pull off, and then I just fold that catheter up, like that. I just dropped a bit of juice on the floor, lubricant should I say. And I have a little bin next to my toilet, which I recommend you guys getting. Just basically pop the bin and push it in there. Obviously my bin needs emptying, but you guys get the idea. You've obviously flushed that part, so then you can put the plastic bit in the bin as well. And then obviously you flush the toilet. Done. That is pretty much the process of catheterizing. And like I said, the catheters that I use are intermittent self-catheterizing is what it's called. That's the method I use. I prefer that. Some people prefer Foley catheters. Personally, I don't. It makes me feel like I need to wee all the time. It's painful. You do get used to it after a while, granted, but I just don't like it at all. But for some people that's easier and more convenient and just a better option. And then people who have to use catheters very long term usually go with the surgical option. Although the doctors I spoke to have rarely, like they've said, we do not recommend that option. So personally, I'm just going to keep on going with the self-catheterizing when I need to. I usually do it 3 times a day. If it's very sore, then I usually do it in the morning, first thing in the morning and right before I go to bed. It just depends on how I'm feeling really. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. And as far as tips go, my biggest tip is use a mirror. That was the biggest thing helping me find where everything is. I don't really use it now, but I used it for a long time at the start when I first started catheterizing, because I just didn't know where things were. And it's just a lot easier to be able to look in the mirror and get it in. It is a daunting subject, but please feel free to comment anything down below, any questions you have for me, and I'll do my best to answer them. I really will. And please, if you guys feel confident enough, share your stories in the comments, because I'm sure there's loads of you out there my age, younger, or you're a little bit older than me, that you may feel scared to talk to your partners about it or your friends. And I really feel like it shouldn't be such a taboo subject. Like, we should feel comfortable and confident talking about it, and the more we talk about it, the more it becomes a normalized subject, as much as it can be. I really hope this has helped some of you out there. That's all I want. That's all I wanted with my channel, was to help some of you guys, even if just one person. That makes me feel like I'm making a difference, because that's all I want to do really. Is just, I don't want to be my existence in this life. I don't want it to be for nothing. I want to do something with my life, and sometimes I just feel like I'm not doing enough. Get myself all worked up and emotional. But yeah, I really hope I've just helped one of you out there. And like I said, if you do have any questions, please comment them down below. I'm gonna try and not go so long without uploading. I'm so sorry that it's taken me so long to upload. But I love you guys to bits, and please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button to join our family, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.